Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Andrew Storm with Creative Community Solutions. And as you know, in the press and media end, we get opportunities to talk with some wonderful people doing some wonderful things. So, whether it's in college or professional sports, arts and entertainment, business, community, you name it, we're fortunate to cover it. To make sure to stay connected, visit us on the web at asnortonccs.com. Make sure to add Creative Community Solutions on Facebook and YouTube at Creative Community Solutions LLC. Ace Norton CCS on Instagram and Twitter. And we will also have our article featured on LinkedIn as well as Medium. So today we get a chance to talk with one of our colleagues in the legal field from the V Law Group based out in the DMV, not Department of Motor Vehicles, but the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And we're so excited to have the owner, proprietor, lead attorney, you name it, she does it. So please introduce yourself.
Hello, hello. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I am Vanessa Nola-Pratt from the V Law Group. As you mentioned, I am the managing attorney of the V Law Group. We're based here in Washington, D.C., and we're also virtual. So even though our main office is in Washington, D.C., we essentially service the entire United States for immigration law, bankruptcy in the states of Maryland and Washington, D.C., not an actual state, but in D.C. And we also do other various practices, employment law, personal injury, general practice, and consultation with veterans law. So a little bit of everything.
Wow. And I tell you what, you cover a lot of aspects of law. So before we dive into the different elements of your practice, I'd like to get a point of reference in regards to just going into the legal field. And we hear all the different things about attorneys this, lawyers this, and what have you. But what was it about the field that let you know that this was the direction that you wanted to go in?
So ever since I was like maybe 8 years old, both of my grandfathers on my maternal and paternal sides were lawyers. So ever since I was about 8 years old, I always wanted to be lawyers. No one in my family at that time had taken after them. Like my mom and her siblings, none of them were lawyers. My father and his sister, none of them were lawyers. So I wanted to like follow in their footsteps. And I had a lot of people in the medical field in my family. My father was a doctor, my mom was a nurse, my sister took after my father. I had a lot of cousins and uncles that were doctors. Everybody in the medical field. I hated science, so I just decided to take a different route from everyone else.
Wow. So it's one of those things where you appreciate science, but your science is the art and practice of law. And
Yeah.
speaking of, there's so many moving parts regarding what's on the books, what's not on the books, what's being advocated for, things along those lines. Speak with us about of the many areas that you cover, is there an area that you would call like your bread and butter or your hallmark area?
So yes, certainly, and I mean, that's immigration law. While we do market the V Law Group as a general practice law firm, immigration law is it for obvious reasons. There's certainly so much going on in the environment with respect to immigration law. There is a grave need for immigration assistance, and it's just so critical. And there's just, as everyone knows, a lot of non-US citizens are targeted, and there is such a massive demand for immigration law assistance at this time. So that has been our bread and butter since we reopened the practice in March of 2025 last year.
Okay. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because obviously this is a topic that is taking center stage. And it's not to say that there, quote, have not been challenges dealing with immigration, but it seems like with the current landscape, it is, for lack of a better term, out of control. How do you maintain a sense of poise, precision, in not only working with your clients who are immigration based, but keeping pace with, I'll say, it seems like the instability of the field?
Okay. So first and foremost, let me just say this. I've done several areas of practice, and immigration law is by far the most challenging practice I've ever endured. And to answer your question, the easy answer to that is there's a tremendous support right now. Um, I would refer to them as a fraternal or brother and sisterhood of immigration attorneys. I belong to numerous immigration support groups with fellow attorneys like myself who are practicing immigration law, and it has been a tremendous help. Like we all try and figure out these things together. We've just had so many challenges in the courtroom with United States citizenship and immigration services. So the way we have been able to navigate all of this is through the support of one another. Like if one person doesn't know an area of immigration law, someone else does. Someone has that answer. So together we have all been able to come together with this just amazing support system, and that's the way we've been able to navigate.
And I'm glad that you said that, because it's not that you're not doing your independent work, but you know that given the nature of the current landscape, you can't necessarily work in a silo. What
Yeah.
would you say is one misconception that you have to whether educate or inform your clients or just the general public?
So one misconception I would say is there are a lot of false information that people stumble on social media. Um, As with any subject, you'll see a post on Facebook from some random source, not from a main source. And unfortunately, a lot of people tend to rely on that. And it just increases fear among people. It's just like so what I say to that is, my advice to people is not to necessarily rely on what you see on Facebook. And the best thing to do with that is to speak to an immigration attorney. So, yeah. So I would say social media. Careful what you, you know.
In other words, it sounds like check for validity and reliability. And if you want to know an answer, go to the source. It's almost like the old school adage of when you go to the park and you want to learn how to fly a kite, you talk with the person who does it effortlessly versus someone who looks like Charlie Brown getting all tied up in who knows what type of shenanigans. So
Absolutely.
so you've spoken briefly to the different areas, your bread and butter, a couple of different moving parts within immigration law. Is there any level of advocacy that you're doing regarding the laws that are on the books, whether you or your collective? So whether it's speaking with your local politicians to Congress to what have you, like, are you able to do any advocacy on that end, or is it more so the advocacy that you do is with the clients that you work with?
So I would say the level of advocacy that I do lends to pro bono work. I'm very big on pro bono work. Occasionally once a month, my bar, the DC bar, has something like an advice and referral clinic where underprivileged citizens or people below a certain income, they go to this clinic once a month on a Saturday and they get free legal advice. And I occasionally volunteer. And when someone needs legal assistance, that's where I come in and I provide those pro bono services.
Hey, great. So here's what we're gathering. You already have a body of work within the field. You have your bread and butter or your core piece. You've got great supplemental pieces. You're kind of, I don't want to say burning the candle at both ends, but like you just explained, the advocacy is not only with the people who retain you, but also with those monthly opportunities and engagement. What would you say, let's say if there's someone who quote, directly doesn't have a need, what are things that the general public can do to, for lack of a better term, help further the work that you and others are doing in the field?
So that's a tricky one because there's just so much going on. If it's not one thing and it's the other. For example, we have immigration issues, we have criminal rights issues, we have there's just so many things. It just feels like all in one happening at the same time. But what I can say about that is to keep the conversation going amongst one another. Um, I believe that not to sound like not to sound cliche, but I believe everybody should make an attempt to get to know an attorney, network with an attorney. You always learn something, you know. So, for example, if this is something that I don't really promote a lot, but say, for example, someone is speaking to me and they need legal assistance or they need an attorney. And typically, if it's an area that I do not cover, what do? I put them in contact with my legal network. There's always somebody that covers a particular area of law. So I try to make those avenues available and accessible to everyone. So, so short answer would be to make it a point to get to know an attorney. I know it sounds kind of vague and broad, but I totally believe in the system of networking. Networking with people gets you to somewhere, to somewhere, to somewhere.
Well, it sounds good. It's almost like start the conversation, maintain the conversation, and keep it going. So, in regards to keeping it going, if people wanted to learn more about all the legal services that you provide, what are the best and or preferred ways that people can get in contact with your firm?
Sure. The best way to contact my firm is by email. Very simple email. It's info@vlawgroup.com, and that's info at v dash lawgroup.com. Or we can be contacted at 202-508-8259. Either way, we're very responsive, regardless of what question or concern it is, we will answer. You know, we make it a point to respond to inquiries within 24 to 48 hours. So, regardless of the scope of that question, we're always available to answer. And if we don't know the answer, there's, we will always have someone to direct that answer to.
Okay, great. Well, it definitely sounds the work that you're doing is needed, necessary, all that, and then some. Before we go, if people don't remember anything about the topics covered, the aspects of law that you are working in, how people can be engaged, informed, if there's one takeaway that you'd like people to have, whether it deals with the work you're doing or just in general, what would you hope for that to be?
Say that again.
Sure. So if people don't recall the topics covered in regards to the aspects of law that your firm covers, the
Mhm.
work that you're doing, how the general public can keep these conversations going, what would be one takeaway or one thought, concept, um, motto, conclusion, one thing that you'd like to share with people that people can go ahead and put to use?
So I would say we're living in unprecedented times. If anything has taught us is what happened, what occurred in Minnesota, right? So we're not non-citizens aren't the only one being harassed by ICE. Everyone's pretty much harassed by ICE at this point. So with that being said, my takeaway would be to make sure you have the phone number of an attorney memorized. I tell this to my clients all the time. I don't care what kind of attorney, but make sure you have that on you. Make sure you have your ID on you. I personally don't like to walk around with my passport, but so either have your ID memorized or have a picture of it on your phone, but always be prepared. Always be prepared to be able to contact a lawyer, or somebody in the legal field if you should you find yourself in that situation, because Minnesota has taught us that anybody can be targeted at any time.
I tell you what, definitely appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to walk through with us your moving parts, the areas or aspects of law that you're covering, as well as just some really good takeaways that people can use regardless. So, as we get ready to close out, as a reminder, make sure to check out the article on our website of acenortonccs.com. Click on the menu for articles and coverage, and you'll find it there. Creative Community Solutions LLC on Facebook and YouTube for any of the article and any of the video or audio segments that we use. Ace Norton CCS on Twitter, Instagram, and we'll also have this available on Linktree and Medium. So we want to thank you for, again, taking time out of your schedule to go ahead and share with us what you're working on. And of course, to each and every one of you, make sure to stay informed, stay engaged. Until next time, all of you take very good care. Have a good evening. We'll look forward to touching base with you real soon.